Good evening and a very, very warm welcome. And hi, Nigel. How are you, sir?
I am very well, thanks, Mark. How's yourself? You okay?
We're good. All good. All good. And it's always a pleasure to hold these webinars. It's one of our favourite subjects, commercial conversions. And we've got a packed house tonight. So lots of people here raring to learn how they can capitalise on the massive opportunity that is commercial conversions. Is it still relevant in 2023 compared to previous years? Is it going to be defining in the future? Well, let's wait and see. We believe there's a huge amount of untapped potential here, and you're going to learn about this tonight. We've got lots of examples and then real life examples, Nigel, that we've been involved in, that we're doing. And indeed, many of our mentees have undertaken as well. And you're regularly doing case studies with those mentees, aren't you?
Absolutely. And some of the groundbreaking stuff that the ladies and gents have done is just incredible. And it's a real privilege of mine, actually. And, something I really hold close to my heart, really celebrating the successes of other people. And, I've actually got a recording, only this Friday coming, actually. And with a lady and her business partner, and they've just done incredible things, Mark, haven't they? And they've been with us on the mentorship program now for 2 years. Moving on to further years as well, which is great. But they've just done incredible, and it's the story, Mark, isn't it? It's a story that sits behind it that I think we love to hear, because everybody can benefit from that stories. And there's lots of highs, but there's also lots of challenges as well. Life isn't as simple as sometimes is made out. But to hear those challenges is great education for all of us, and very inspiring. So I'm really looking forward to recording that on Friday, and we can add that to the whole portfolio of podcasts that we've been recording over the 6-7 months now. They're all available in the Equa Hub. Yeah.
Nothing like a good case study. So a bit of protocol for this evening. If you pop your questions in the Q&A box, please. Let's keep it all to the Q&A box. Nigel's going to be standing by to answer any quick ones. And then at the end, we'll have some time. We aim to run about 45, 50 minutes, and then 10 minutes, 15 minutes for Q&A at the end, which should bring us nicely to around about 8 o'clock. Because we know your time's valuable, and time is, for all of us, one of our scarcest resources. But let's see how we can use those resources wisely and smash into 2023 with this fantastic strategy. Clearly, the world has gone to hell in a handcart if you read all the red tops, and we've got to make sense of that chaos. And I firmly believe that change is a constant. Nigel and I, we started a business in the 1990s, and then we experienced the dot-com boom and bust era. We've had properties back in 2008, 2009, the financial meltdown. We've had Brexit. We've had some global pandemic somebody was talking about recently. And of course, we've had Trussonomics in September, and we're still feeling the fallout of that. The war and in Ukraine, and the devastating effect that's having on those poor people over there, and the resilience that they're showing. And of course, climate change, and now we've got the energy crisis and rising costs. So you would think, there's no worse time in the world for these sort of aspects. There's always opportunity out there, and we'll probably raise 2 or 3 areas which are counter-cyclical to the economy. We have to be tenacious, and that's why being involved in a great community like Equa Academy, it's that rising tide lifts all ships, and we take inspiration from many of the things you're doing. You'll take inspiration from each other and some of the things that we're doing, and that's what's wonderful about this. And on the right-hand side, this was taken on our monthly focus group sessions, which all of our Equa Hub members are part of. And you can just see on there, managing development risks, finding deals and planning, tax, accountancy, structuring, and funding and insuring property. They're the thorny subjects that we're getting to grips with, and massive support out there. So how do we make sense of the chaos there and turn the change and the constant evolution into the uncovering of those golden nuggets, those key opportunities out there? And they very much are out there. But as Nigel said, let's not just think of the 7 simple steps to making £1 million in a week. You know, property and indeed business is get rich slowly. Taking those solid foundation steps and building compounding of wealth. And to do that, we also need to be cognizant of the risk, reducing risk at each stage. And here's 5 areas that we believe are fundamental in 2023. And we can help you do this, is look at how we can reduce risk by stacking more deals. Okay, making those deals stack, structuring them right, looking at the right components, de-risking them, and you will be able to stack more deals. Reducing the risk at exit. Exit remains one of the key risks in a falling or flat economy. So managing the exit risk, really important. And again, perfectly possible. You can manage the exit risk at the beginning and don't need to wait till the end. Funding costs. How you fund deals, how you keep a control of the cost of finance, super crucial, very possible. Likewise with build cost exposure. I think we all know the rising cost of construction materials and labour. So, you know, how do you control that and manage that risk? And then finally, impact on your personal balance sheet. How do you make sure that if you're providing, as a great example, Nigel, we've got a number of mentees, and in fact, we've got a business ourselves, which is serving social impact housing, supported living, social housing. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But, you know, how do you become that catalyst of creating shared value in the economy, in the community, without having to put everything on the block as the funders would like? So managing those risks, and we'll touch on a number of those throughout the course of the presentation this evening. But with buy-to-lets, there's rising costs, low yields. The government are putting in more and more blockers in the way for private landlords, even if they're incorporated assets. So buy-to-lets for many is becoming a diminishing opportunity. But with commercial conversions, if you can get the mindset straight that we are creating buy-to-lets, not buying buy-to-lets. And it's all about adding value, Nigel, isn't it? Every step of the way, right from the beginning.
Absolutely. And you've got one end and the other end of the spectrum as well with this situation. So you've got, you know, we've all heard of the housing crisis and, you know, the need for property in the economy, and the certain parts of the economy that need property more than others as well. And we're going to touch on that later on. But you've also got, you know, obviously you kind of mentioned the COVID times and Brexit, et cetera, et cetera. And I think people have learned now, you know, maybe business owners or bosses or whatever it may be, but they've learned that there's a different way of working. So, you know, what we're seeing, you know, more and more is, you know, commercial properties are coming to market. Yes, maybe the expectation of the seller is still quite high, but it's all driven by an economic equation, and it starts with value. And you know, once you reduce off that value the cost, and then you need to maintain a profit because it needs to be fundable, it spits out essentially a maximum land value which you can offer in there. And sometimes it takes a bit of time. Sometimes, you know, we've got quite thick shoulders, Mark, haven't we? And we accept there is a no from time to time, but you just persevere and you keep it going, because that, you know, that property owner that's got that commercial unit that's empty on the high street or, you know, within a particular area, you know, they're probably suffering quite harshly in terms of maybe business rates. It could be, you know, insurance for the building, you know, maintenance, these sorts of things. And they're picking up the bill every month. So the pain from their perspective is growing and compounding, you know, and it's avoiding them moving on to the next thing because they've probably got equity stuck in their particular property. So there is an opportunity out there for sure. And, you know, it's just getting close to the people that can serve you in terms of that stock level. And, you know, it is a numbers game. We know that, Mark, don't we? It is a numbers game. You've got to get them rattling across your desk. But when you've got a machine, you know, in terms of a spreadsheet or an analysis to do that quickly, it becomes quite a pleasurable experience, really. You can just move them across your desk quite quickly and then, you know, pick out the golden nuggets, as you say.
Becomes systemized, doesn't it? And I think the clue's in the title of the presentation, commercial conversions. And many will be immediately thinking commercial to residential conversions, which is a massive opportunity. But let's also not miss out. I mean, the picture on the left, we'll come back to that one shortly. It's an asset we hold in Colchester. Commercial conversions, you can convert from commercial to commercial. You can go from wholly commercial to a mixed use commercial, part residential, classic shop with uppers. So there are many different ways you could. We've had a commercial conversion where we demolished part of a building, did a part new build and part strip out and refurbishment. So there's many different ways. But if you think of the end product being probably a 1 or 2 bed apartment, let's say, then we're creating homes, we're creating buy-to-lets rather than trying to buy a buy-to-let and refurbish and add a bit of value. So there's a lot more to go at here. If we look at adding value, there are many different ways of adding value. Buying at the right price, delays, optionality, conditionality. And don't worry if this language feels confusing. You know, we'll take you through this with our various programs and things. Change of use, new leases on commercial property, negotiating and rebasing leases. Then there's the development phase, the physical construction phase, the exit strategy itself, and maybe title splitting, refinancing, if that's the strategy as well. And as we move through each of these layers of adding value, we're increasing the profitability. We're driving equity into the deal. And that's super crucial. And as we increase the profitability and drive that equity wedge in, what we're also doing is decreasing risk. And particularly if we look at where is the point of acquisition. And we've struck a line here just before development, you know, classic legal completion, then you straight into the strip out and develop. Now that acquisition point, we've already added 5 of the 8 layers of adding value prior to acquiring, because at the point of acquisition, that's where maybe the expensive development finance starts kicking in. We say expensive, but development finance is still relatively cheap for what it is, and it needs to be baked into the numbers in your deal analysis. But then, of course, we've mentioned this before. Is there a way that you could confirm the exit strategy before you start the construction? So it is possible to actually agree a predefined contracted exit, somebody buying those units before you've even started the development. So again, there's more ways that you can reduce the risk, particularly when you're in control, not necessarily own, but when you're in control of a development. Real food for thought here. Here's an example of my latest example. It's not the largest we've ever done. There's a great book called Small is Beautiful, Economics as if People Mattered. Lovely book. Look it up. But this is Glen Eagles in Southend, and it's small is beautiful. It's right on the promenade in Southend-on-Sea. It's an ex-bed and breakfast. And Nigel, we didn't travel 200 miles to a new patch to find this one, did we?
No, absolutely. It felt like we fell out of bed and it was there, really. It was one of those. I live quite locally in Essex, and, myself and the team, have quite a number of local contacts, and this was a kind of a call out the blue, really. There's an opportunity here. There was a bit of a backstory. It was a bit of a sad backstory, but as long as you're patient with the vendor and allow them to just do whatever they need to do, you can unearth these opportunities and they become part of your pipeline. I think it took us, I would say, because of the circumstances, and I won't mention what they are, but it was quite a severe situation. But the vendor sadly they took about 9 months, 9 to 10 months to get this sorted out. So it's but yeah, really pleased to say it's all completed now, and we're into demolition and away we go. But yeah, the production of some beautiful flats, and the reason why I think they kind of stand out from the rest is because each of them has a front to rear aspect, which is fantastic. You can kind of see the views from the front, over the estuary there, which is just lovely. And that particular promenade, properties come up for sale kind of once in a blue moon. So there was the opportunity to find a bit of real estate that we could convert into resi. Lots of precedent left and right as well, Mark, wasn't there? Lots of precedent where properties similar to this have been converted into apartments. And we did the due diligence, and we looked at the detail, and we could see how quickly these units were coming onto market and being taken off the market straight away, almost sold, immediately. And some, there was evidence of them being sold off plan as well. So, the demand is there. I think location is key. The views kind of speak for themselves. And we're really looking forward to getting this one underway. And as you say, small is beautiful. If you want to do 60 units, well, of course you can do them in one block, but you can equally do 10 of these units as well and spread the risk. And, we see that as a real positive.
Yeah. And for those who are wondering, how on earth am I going to find my first development? Think of bed and breakfasts. Think at where you stay. If you're going to a seaside area, you probably navigate towards a Holiday Inn or an Airbnb, or maybe a Travel Lodge or Premier Inn or something like that. Society doesn't really use 6, 8, 10 bed B&B hotels anymore. And likewise, the people who operate these have probably owned them for 20, 30, 40 years, family establishments. And the next generation aren't really that keen at getting up at 5:30, 6 in the morning to fry bacon and eggs for their guests anymore. It's a dying model. So can you go out there and find in your local area, in the Margates, the Morgans, the Grimsby, the Immingham, the Skegness's of the world, seaside areas, this type of property, they are out there. There's also a key societal need, a social need here. So they don't have to be luxurious accommodations with necessarily beautiful views. You could find social impact purposes to house those that are less fortunate than ourselves. And we'll cover that a little bit later on. So really like this. In terms of profitability, you're probably looking at net profitability before tax in the region of 350,000, 400,000 pounds of profit. What would 350 to 400,000 pounds of profit to you and your fellow shareholders, stakeholders feel like? Okay, you've got to bear in mind tax and tax efficiency, but how could that change your lives? So a bit about ourselves, why we qualified to maybe share some views on this subject. Well, Nigel and I, we've been in business for well over 30 years. We're both engineers from different disciplines. And we've been involved in business up until 2015, running large infrastructure projects, mission critical environments, data centers, power stations. But Nigel, I think it's fair to say that we, with 4 children each, we're having more and more companies that we're responsible for with our PLC. We decided to make a move and look at more multi-generational wealth, didn't we?
Absolutely. And it was difficult, wasn't it? Because I think you get caught on the wave of, responsibility to put food on the table and progress through your career, and you do the best you can. But of course, you're doing it for somebody else. Somebody else is benefiting ultimately from the hard efforts. And, you and I, Mark, we spent many, many years, I suppose, collectively away from home. And, sadly, through that process, we didn't spend the right time with the family, while they were growing up. So, something's got to change. And really, we got to the end of our journey in the commercial world, having learnt an enormous amount. And you kind of got to learn it on the job as well, to take the bumps and the bruises and all the rest of it and learn from that. But that certainly set us up well for, getting into our own business structure and moving that forward. So,
yeah. So if you're on this call and this webinar this evening, and you're in a full-time job and you're thinking, how can I find the time and make that extra surge of effort to transform my life? We've been there. Nigel and I have been there. We understand what that's like, and there is a way. And we see consistently people who have really got that mindset clear and want to achieve will. It's that law of attraction there. So it's most certainly possible. It's not easy all the time. There will be some choppy water, but when you've got choppy water, you need somebody to help guide you and navigate you through the quickest route, and not to make the mistakes that others have made. And probably just worth actually, we've also been involved in, and we continue to invest in businesses, whether it be in startup mode. We've run mergers and acquisitions, and we also are looking at acquiring more and more businesses as well. And the exit process, and by leading teams anywhere from 50 to 5,000 people in our teams in corporate life, we've naturally been involved in mentoring, and we've been non-executive directors as well at varying levels. And actually this year's our 25th anniversary, Nigel, isn't it? We met each other in 1998.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah, Valentine's Day next week. Let's celebrate. In fact, probably known you as long as we've both been married, actually. Here's just give you an idea. This is just a selection of some of the commercial conversions that we've been involved in. This one's a 53 unit scheme. This one's 22 in Godalming in Surrey. This one's 5 stories. There's 3 blocks here, 18 apartments in Hull. This one's in Braintree. This one's in Camberley in Surrey. This one's in Colchester. So's this one, actually. This one's near Farnham in Surrey. This one's near Acton in West London. So yes, quite a smattering there around the country. You don't have to go necessarily north or east or west. We've found these because we operate in a region generally within an hour of where we live. Nigel lives in Essex. I live in Surrey, so it stands to reason we'd look around the home counties. So that's a bit about us. We've introduced ourselves to you. Now it's time for you to introduce yourselves. Got just a very simple poll here. So what's your experience in commercial conversions? Just give us an idea of the level of experience. Are you keen to get started now and need to know how? Have you a development and want to increase your experience so you've got the confidence as you wade your way through that first development? Are you interested in learning if this is the strategy for you yet? You're still undecided? Or have you got a development, you've done a significant amount already and you want to scale? And that's the next level. That's the kind of the takeoff zone, really. So we'll just give... it's worth saying, Nigel, of all the people we're working with, it's the passion, the tenacity and the commitment, that taking action that really does define the traits of those that become successful. You don't have to come from a construction background, or a lot of this can be learned along the way, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. And some of our clients, our mentees, our masterminders, they have a job and they absolutely love it as well. In contrast, they love it, but what they can see is the fragility of what they're in. They're only 30 days away from, whatever situation, redundancy or otherwise. So, they're building, they're doing strategies on the side with us, and but it's true grit. I'm really proud to say the people that have been hugely successful have just got that drive, tenacity, as you say.
Yeah.
Just get it done, and it gets done. And patience sometimes comes into it. Volume we spoke about, so that creates tenacity and constant moving, and there's a few bumps and blows along the way in terms of no's, but eventually it'll be a yes, and that's the point. And then you're off.
You mentioned a key word there, humility. I think we're we're a big believer that humility is one of the greatest strengths in business. You know, if you don't remain humble and grounded, you become complacent and you start to miss things. So humility is key. So let's have a look who we've got then. So 48% of you are keen to get started and need to know how. And that's absolute. I think that's tremendous that, you know, understanding what that system looks like, systemized way, and not wanting to miss anything. 16% have a development and want to increase experience, so they're confident in doing it. So it tells us probably you haven't quite got many deals in this overall group. So that's something. How do we find more deals? So we'll show you how we find some of our deals shortly. Interested in learning if this is the strategy for me. So 35%. You know, just teaching, is this the right strategy or not? I have development experience and want to scale significantly, about 18%. So thank you for sharing that. That means a lot to us. Thank you. So the mindset of wealth. When we talk about the mindset of wealth, I think most of us immediately think of financial wealth, but it all centers around your why. What is your why, your driver? Sounds like a cliche, but actually this is true. And wealth comes in a number of different forms. There is your health. There is your, financial wealth. There is the wealth of time. And for any of you who are working 40, 50, 60-hour working weeks, and lots of time in addition to that commuting, and when you are at home, you're not present in the moment because you've got work things on your mind, you'll know that time is wealth as well. Relationships can suffer, but if you can create that wealth through commercial conversions, you know, all of these can improve. And of course, we want to improve ourselves. That personal development is just super crucial. It's a wonderful thing if you're growing. If you're not growing, potentially you're shrinking. So we love that growth. And of course, once you can close that loop and you've fully got that full complement of health, financial, time, relationships, and personal wealth, you're then in a fantastic position to help others. And that truly is a great position, particularly if helping others is part of your why and sits right at the center of your strategy. So understanding what your why and your goals are, they're individual. And nobody should judge. They are individual to you, your personal circumstances. So if you want to live a life of travel or live abroad or own supercars, spend more time with the family, I mean, that one's particularly key for us, spending more time with our loved ones. And of course, doing the baton change. There's no point in creating a legacy if you're not preparing the custodianship of that legacy. So what are the next generation? Are they prepared? And have we anticipated the structuring, trusts, wealth creation, knowledge, education in the next generation, so that our legacy doesn't become their lottery win? And we know what lottery wins can do. You know, they can, for the unprepared, they can be counterproductive. So part of Nigel and I's commitment is we want to be around long enough to actually enjoy that baton change and see the next generation, our kids, really step up. And you know, many of our children are actually working in the business. All the children are shareholders in the business. And that really does mean something. And I think it should mean something to you as well. So whatever your goals are and your why, keep them there, keep them vivid, because they're just super powerful. And this is key around planning your personal economy. And because property and business, they're vehicles to increase your wealth. Okay, it's what have I got to sacrifice to get an additional benefit to my life? And if you can conquer these 7 core steps, you'll be well on your way to cementing the real solid foundations of a powerful business and a powerful personal economy. It's having the right mindset, that personal growth, that commitment, and getting your head in the right space consistently. Using that mindset to create the right strategy. And that's the strategic acquisition of assets, making sure you get the right team on board, right clarity there. We see many people who will select an emotionally led strategy rather than, a strategy that's laced with business acumen. Cash flow. We all need cash flow, period. We all need more cash flow. We'd all like more tax efficient cash flow as well. So being very clear on how your particular strategy is going to generate cash flow in the short term. No point in having a great development that's going to take you 3 years to do, but you want cash flow in the first 3 or 4 months. And commercial conversions can give you cash flow very quickly, right up to the point from legal completion. So we can show you ways in which you can generate more cash flow. Then, of course, embracing leverage. There are about 10 or 11 forms of leverage that I can think of. Obviously, time and money tend to be the two instinctive areas, but there are many more forms of leverage that you can embrace. Assets, I'll come on to assets in a minute, picking the right asset class. And of course, if you're creating wealth, you also want to protect wealth. And that means starting with the end in mind. And then, of course, how do you scale? How do you find that replicable model so you can rinse and repeat, scale up? And of course, if you're scaling up with the same strategic objectives, you'll be able to put your lessons learned into there. So it won't be revolution. You won't be, doing buy-to-lets one day and HMOs the next, and then moving on to service accommodation, then on to new build developments. You'll have a system, a process which will tweak and evolve and gradually get better and better and better. So you're building an operational manual, a system. So we believe that you have to have a plan, and it needs to be carefully thought out. We've seen people try this, try property investing and not have a plan and try for years. But as soon as they get the logic of having the right plan, the right structure, and not starting straight away with a building or with a property, we see the benefits and the achievements accelerate tremendously. So, of course, in the plan, you need the why, the what, the when, the where, the how, and the who, of course. But also looking at not just the cash flow, but how do you create that net worth plan as well? Creating that operating system, that evolution that I've spoken about. Making sure it's enshrined in a tax-efficient structure. It's hard enough to create the wealth, but what we want to do is retain the wealth as well and protect the wealth through tax efficiency. Making sure you understand what your risk appetite is. Okay, that's really important. What are you prepared to put on the line? And we're going to suggest you don't have to put a lot on the line here. So, it's not about buying a property and hope you'll get planning for conversion. So it's making sure that you know exactly how to approach vendors, how to have that articulate conversation, how to negotiate best terms, how to add the value before you put your money on the line. And of course, how you create shared value is wonderful if you can create shared value with other parties. And they could be investors, they could be joint venture shareholders, business partners. Creating shared value happens in a number of ways. But of course, it starts with how are you going to find deals, where are you going to find the deals, and how are you going to fund those deals? And constantly measure each one of those metrics. It's not difficult. Have a very simple plan and start to build statistics and measure. So if you know where you're going to get to, your goals, your commitment, you can then take those steps of measuring step by step. And here are the 8 different types of assets. There's business, property, pensions. Obviously, our passion is with SaaS pensions. Intellectual property. Obviously, we've got the books and the EQRA IDA, stock shares, joint ventures. And we got emerging one of digital in terms of cryptocurrency and NFTs and the like. And of course, communities are an asset as well. But the two that we're going to focus on is obviously the business of being in property. And you can find a lot of these principles here. This is a wall planner that all of our members get within the Equa Hub. So you can actually record, it's about 3 feet wide, 2 feet high, and it sits there, pride of place in your office, where you can actually fill this in. It's a constant reminder every single day, every single week, every single month, where you can continually fine tune and evolve. It's fully laminated, so as your plans evolve, you can hit the refresh button. But those personal wealth targets that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, it sets those longer term objectives, which transcends just one development. One development will be life-changing, but you could go again. You could look at the second one and the third one. And we see that big change where people start looking at building a pipeline, and then the return on investment really does start to accelerate. So here's one of our larger developments that we did a few years ago. GDV of about 12 million. This was a permitted development scheme. It was 26,000 square feet of derelict office space. And we took an option on this and went for permitted development and got 44 apartments. We then went back into planning. This was before airspace rights, as many of you may be familiar with. We went back into full planning to put an extra floor on, and you can see the extra floor there on those CGIs, and that gave us an additional 9 apartments. So that's 53 apartments. We exchanged April 2019, and we practically completed that one in February 2022. So that was a fairly lengthy build. We built that one through COVID. Productivity dipped a little bit, but we're proud that we kept that site open every single day. But obviously we had to have some pretty exceptional measures during COVID, but just shows you what can happen, the leverage of working with a fantastic team. You know, great professional team, great contracting team, great management team. And this is the scalability of resources that you can have. We counted the years of experience of all of our professional team, you know, architects, lawyers, planning consultants, and we added up all their years of experience and all the people involved, and it was over 2,000 years of experience, all being from all different quarters, all different backgrounds, disciplines, across many different years, many different projects. So again, that's the power of leverage. Now, we've mentioned adding value and assured outcomes and planning. On the Equa Hub, there's the developers program. So this is 7 parts. Each part is well over 2 hours packed with detail, content, templates, and that will just take you through each one of those steps. And it's like a Netflix library there. You can dip in and dip out and pause and record it, but that takes you through. There are actually 20 parts to a commercial conversion process. Some are small, some are larger parts, but the important thing here is we don't want you to miss anything. This is Portal Precinct. This is 5 commercial units in Colchester. And we purchased this one about 4 years ago now, for about 610,000. 5 commercial units, Nigel, and we got a conversion, full planning permission in a conservation area. Yeah. But we got that before we bought it, didn't we? So we had a...
We did, yeah. So it was it was an interesting story, this one. So literally walking down the Sir Isaac's Walk. It's a beautiful road, actually, cobbled streets, you know, in the old part of Colchester, Colchester being one of the older recorded towns in the UK. And just walking down, and I don't know whether you can see it in the picture, but to the bottom left-hand corner, there's like an archway, and I just glanced to the left. This is kind of keeping the the spider sensor's on full alert at all time when we're in this business. But I glanced through and I saw the commercial unit that's beyond the courtyard with a for sale sign in. You can actually see it there you go, the for sale sign there. And sorry, it wasn't for sale, it was to let. It was to let. Sorry. So I walked in, I took a picture of the sign that was to let, and I carried on with my business and walked down the street. But on the way, I phoned the agent and just said to the agent, look, I'm in town. I've just passed the site. Be interesting to have a look around if that's okay. And the agent said, well, that's funny because I'm in town as well. And, we can get the keys and I'll meet you there in what, shall we say half an hour? I kind of pushed him to an hour, but nonetheless, we met there and had a walk around. And really interested. And as we walked around that rear part of the courtyard, which is what I thought was the part to let, the agent expanded really the ownership of that site and his client to actually a couple of the front units as well. So there's a cafe to the right, and there's a shop to the left over 2 stories. So it's kind of buying the whole courtyard really. So we carried on with the conversation, and I put it to this person. I said, look, to be honest, we're not really interested in letting it. I'd be interested to know whether your client would be minded to accept an offer to sell. So he said, well, that's really interesting. Let me make a phone call. So he made a phone call, spoke to his client, and actually what came back was make us an offer. Yeah, so it all kind of escalated and galloped ahead from that point. But it just shows you, I think it's a great example of, what can be achieved by just keeping your eyes open. Keep your eyes open and your ears open and just see what's available. But that particular site then transposed into an ability to exchange contracts. We exchanged on a teeny amount of money in context to the value of the site. I think it was £5,000. The exchange was conditional. It's conditional upon receiving planning. So at the point of receiving planning, we then completed, and we got planning for 3 lovely flats to the rear, in the rear part of the courtyard. So we ended up with 5 commercial units and 3 residential units at the back that we had planning permission for. But immediately that added value. We bought for 610. The value of the whole site now, fully let. We've got the local authority into 1, 2, 3 of the units of the 5, and long-serving tenants in the other 2, which have just renewed for another 10 years each. But the value of those leases and the ability to convert the upper parts to residential units, took the value of that site into the millions, which was just a great example of adding that value, Mark, isn't it? We're creating buy-to-lets. We're not just picking them up, giving them a dust down and putting them on the market. So it's driving maximum value in at every stage. So we bought really well. We added value by getting planning. So we enhanced the value that way. We developed it. And the scale of economy in terms of the number of units we were converting, we were buying X amount of kitchens, bathrooms, et cetera, et cetera. We got a volume discount, which was brilliant. We then, let them out, got them revalued, those flats, and we've got small mortgages on there, and they do really well. And then the commercial units, which when we bought the site, 3 out of the 5 units were empty. Those 3 units we found amazing tenants for, and those amazing tenants were actually the local authority. Huge covenant strength, bulletproof in terms of their ability to pay, and the whole, that whole gambit, going into an empty unit, but applying that lease and the value of that lease from a lender's perspective just made the value go exponential, which was just amazing.
Just amazing. And we call it the Holy Grail of 7. As Nigel said, we bought a building that wasn't for sale. We created shared value, actually, because the lettings agent would have only got 1 letting fee. But in the end, he got 5 sales fees. And he now is our commercial manager who helps us manage this portfolio for probably the next 20, 25 years. So everybody wins. And do you think they'll bring us more deals in the future? So it's really worthwhile looking at how you engage and work with commercial agents as an example. So we got planning uplift, we did the physical conversion, we did an infill of the airspace here to make this apartment bigger. We transformed the leases, as Nigel said, and we own all the commercial in our SAS pension. So it's highly tax efficient. We own the 3 commercial units in a straightforward limited company with buy-to-let finance on. And Nigel, the buy-to-lets that we hold, we've had certain tenants pay in cash, well, not literally in cash, not bucket loads of cash, but literally pay up front for 12 months in advance, haven't we?
We have, and this is again another good example of how the rental market is at this tick of the clock as well. It's I think people that are renting property at the moment, they probably see actually a great time to rent. There's a huge demand. There's a shortage of good rental properties on the market, and these particular ones we kind of had them queuing down the street. So when they went onto the market, there were so many people inquiring that we had to have an open day. So it was done over a particular weekend, and our agent at the time brokered a number of offers, and those offers were full price offers from over 10 parties. And then it became a beauty parade. So, best and final offer as well, and a beauty parade. So the person, there was 2 of them actually just paid all the cash up front, and that was part of the beauty parade. So they paid over the odds and 12 months in advance. So it just shows you the potential that is out there, in the rental market at the moment. And if we can create these lovely assets that are, very, very good standard and good quality, and are maintained well and managed well, it's a cash flowing asset for life, really.
Yeah, just multi-generational wealth. Here's another one in Colchester. You get the theme here. Colchester is not too far from where Nigel lives, and he runs our land and acquisition team. And a similar story. This one's about just over 5 million. It's an old office block here. Well, not too old, actually. I think it was built in the 80s. And we got permitted development rights for 26 apartments and these 2 commercial units at the front, which we then successfully exited. And sometimes we retain some of the units as well. And that's an option all of you will have with your strategy. Do you buy and develop and sell everything? Do you hold a few units by selling them into one of your investment companies, maybe? Where do you want the profit? Do you want it in after-tax pounds? Do you want it in the retained assets? Lots of choices and diversification. And of course, we're creating wealth here. So looking at different types of structure and tax efficiency, I don't want to get too complicated here, but it's not very efficient to maybe hold the properties personally. You could hold them in a limited company, a SAS trust, a limited liability partnership, another form of trust. It could be offshore, a little bit more complicated there to say the least. But looking at the ownership, the shareholding, the stakeholders, tax rates, these sort of things, you need a great tax advisor and an accountant who will help you with this. And that's exactly what we have. More than happy to share who we use, but it helps you kick the tires on your strategy. And just a tip, we have a quarterly meeting with our accountant. So we can see Q1, Q2, Q3 during the year, we can see where the profitability is going, making sure we're right on top of everything from expenses to VAT returns. And we really embrace them as part of our team. So quarterly returns, you won't go wrong with that. And I mentioned tax efficiency. I'm doing a 6-part SAS Pensions Masterclass at the moment. It's 9 o'clock every Friday morning for our EquiHub members. This Friday is part 3. So it's part 3 of a 6-part series. And this week for part 3, we're looking at commercial property and SaaS, what you can do, what you can't do, how you can enable, how you can interact between the two. So again, that gets recorded. You can watch it live and interact with Q&A, or you can watch the recording. It's generally uploaded within 12 hours of being delivered. Just a reminder that we have a podcast. Nigel and I record a podcast. Nigel, you've been busy beavering away, recording lots of podcasts with some of our great mentees and business partners.
Yes, absolutely. And I mentioned the one on Friday with Joe, so that really looking forward to that, and also excited to announce that we're going to schedule a 6-part series with our planning consultant. So it's going to be the planning podcast, which is going to be coming out. So we're just scheduling all those recordings, and again, we're going to talk about all things planning, which is just great. A lot of moving parts in the planning market as well, legislation changing and all the rest of it. So it's so important to keep on top of this stuff, and through general discussion and the ability to ask any questions, etc., etc. I think that's a great forum to get it out, to the market, which is good.
Super. And of the same name, Property Developers and Investors, which speaks volumes. We've got our Facebook group and LinkedIn group. So hop onto Facebook and literally join us. There's a community of nearly 3,000 people there, all passionate about helping, sharing, caring, and creating that shared value through property, business, and investment. Now, raising private finance, this is a real mindset shift for many people, and quite a lot of people struggle with this. They have the limiting beliefs that scarcity of funds will hold them back. How could I buy a building for 400,000 and convert it into 4 flats? Where am I going to get that kind of money from? Well, that's the power of leverage, and the banks will help fund, and we can teach you how to become investable. And there are various steps there, but it's also about creating opportunities for others who might want to come on that journey with you, might want to invest with you. So raising private finance, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're both right. So it's about getting your head around this subject. And we can help you do that. We have what we call the promised model, where we have process, returns, options, creating that model, the investability, security, engagement, and creating that draw, that attraction to you. And there's a video on each and every one of those to enable you to put in place the right systems, the right process. So, for instance, take an investment memorandum or your corporate brochure. There is a sort of 15, 20-part step on how to structure one. And you can have the templates as well. This is about enabling you to become confident on your story. So designing your right mindset, your strategy, and then bringing that into your website or your brochure. We can really embed your social impact story, your purpose, and that's very personal to each and every one of us. So that promise model will certainly help. And then we have what we call the 7 steps to investability. How do you build that identity? How do you increase your profile? How do you create that personal trust? And then the trust in your business credibility. And then, of course, it's the attractiveness of the investment. And those 3 steps there, creating personal trust, then the business credibility, and then investors will start to look at how attractive the investment is to them. And of course, it doesn't stop then, constant communication, and then that review and repeat to see if investors are interested in reinvesting. So again, I think you'll find that really super crucial on building your confidence to engage with the potential investment community out there. And that's recorded a 8-part video series there. So you can access that, download that, watch each and every one of those, and there's various templates as well. Here's a development we recently completed in West London, about 19 million GDV. This was this big tower here. This was a refurbishment, a complete strip out. We put a mansard roof on the top, and then we demolished the whole rear end of the building, and we did a complete new build there. So it was a combination of new build, refurbishment, and commercial conversion with some airspace rights as well. So it's a combination of permitted development and full planning. And again, we exchanged on that one just before lockdown, and we practically completed over last summer. So again, it's amazing what you can do with a great team of professionals who work tirelessly through lockdown to achieve amazing things. This is the diversity of what we're creating. When you've got a strategy like commercial conversions, think of the product that you're creating. You're creating products that are diverse in society. You could buy, develop, and sell them. You could buy to let them, so hold them and rent them out. You could put them on leases to local authorities. You could lease them to a service accommodation provider and let them out for short-term lets. They could be used for social housing, for supported living, for other forms of social care. So there's many different areas there, and you need as many of those options as possible, particularly in a marketplace that we have at the moment. So that's why you could refer to apartments as pockets of liquidity. They're a whole lot easier to move, to sell, to trade than, say, a 7-bed HMO, which might be quite difficult. And the party who's going to be buying a 7-bed HMO is going to be looking at getting a great deal. So, of course, if you're selling an apartment, you could be selling the apartment and it's somebody's new home. So therefore, it becomes more of an emotional purchase rather than just an investment purchase. And I mentioned social impact. It's something close to Nigel and my heart. This is Zurich House. This is 26,000 square foot. I showed you that case study earlier on, which was very tired in Crawley in West Sussex. And you can see here pictures on the floor. This was, I think there's around about 4,000 hypodermic needles that we pulled out of this building. We had to decontaminate it before we started the strip out process. And we turned it into wonderful apartments. It's, absolutely fantastic what can be achieved. But we looked at each other as a board and said, well, look, that's great, but we'll give ourselves a pat on the back for a great conversion. But what have we done to help society's deeper issues? The drug rehabilitation, the habitual overnight sleeping, really we've just kicked the can down the road. So how can we take on a broader social responsibility? Now, we can't take on the drug solving problems or solving the drug problems of Crawley or any other city for that matter. So what we did was we thought really hard, and we worked with a couple of sensational guys, and we created a business called Cornerstone Place, which helps support charities to alleviate street homelessness. And our aim is to help alleviate the homelessness crisis in this country by 2030. Now, PwC did a report with Crisis that says the cost to society of homelessness is about £27,500 per year for one homeless person on the streets per year. So if we can create, our target is actually 10 million homeless bed nights, but extrapolating, those 1,100 rooms and apartments, and that will create an average of 417 homeless bed nights per year over 10 years, over 4 million. Just by achieving 4 million, that will save 32 million in taxpayer savings every year, which is enough to employ nurses, firefighters, police and social workers to cater for the needs of a small county. So quite incredible. And that's what society gains from this. Not what we gain. There'll be a margin for ourselves, of course, as well as a sustainable business. But think of families being repatriated together, and people turning around and not becoming a burden on the state, but overcoming their serious complex needs. So that's a wonderful feeling. And we're going to be doing a supported living 6-part series starting in March within the Equa Hub on exactly this subject, because it's so passionate for all of us. So it's about thinking differently, taking action. This is a net carbon zero project. We've got an option on in the south of England at the moment. And we do like a good quote. George Patton, that famous US general, if everyone is thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking. You know, if you're just going with the tide, going with the flow, then that's where complacency sets in. So it's all about challenging tradition. But it starts with, you've got to be in the game. You've got to take action. And we're proud that we're taking action in this and a number of other areas. So I mentioned the Equa Hub, and I know you're results driven, we're results driven as well. You know, these are the areas that we're focused on. We've got the 20-step development process, and the whole structure of the Equa Hub is based around there. You probably can't read it there, but everything from strategy and compliance to finding funding, valuation, planning, right the way through to the handover and the asset management process. And of course, the rewards that you've worked in, extraordinarily hard to achieve. So in the Equa Hub, we've got video tutorials. I've mentioned the Raising Private Capital Masterclass. You'll be eligible to come on to the monthly live sessions. So we do a 2-hour, I think it's second Thursday of every month, Zoom, which is recorded. But you can join in with our great community. And we have lots of guests and case studies and real driven content there. We've got the online developers program. You get access to that. I'm doing the SaaS Pension Masterclass at the moment, and we've got our trusted partner network. A couple of my books are complimentary there, with PDF downloads for the commercial conversion book and also the SaaS pension book. And there's bonus recordings in those subjects. And of course, we've got the wall planner, which we'll send to you. That comes out generally in month 2. As well as other free books and things. And we're always adding some of the areas that we've got coming up. We've got supported living, finding deals masterclass. Nigel referred to the planning masterclass and of course the mentee case studies. So our gift to you, and you've all received the email on this anyway as you joined for this webinar. So it's a 30-day free subscription. Put your details in at the checkout, use Equa Free 30, and we won't start billing you until the end of the first month. And it's 25 quid a month, but you get the first month for free. So dive in there, immerse yourself. So we're giving you the first month free, and it's 50% off for life. So just 25 quid a month. It's the price of a coffee a week. And if you can't commit to that, it's about taking action on that strategy. We've mentored and mastermind people for many years now. If you are interested in being mentored by us or joining one of our mastermind groups, then click on that QR code in the corner, take a quick picture with your phone and book a call with me personally. I always like to have those slots where you can have a chat with me one-to-one and see if mastermind or mentorship is for you. But grab that bonus gift. You can't go wrong. There's nothing to lose. Join up, find out what Equa Hub has got to offer you, and get that first 30 days free. And I guarantee you won't be disappointed. So I think we said about an hour, and actually we're not too far off that, Nigel. We're doing good. Been busy beavering away. The recording for this, by the way, is in the Equa Hub, and so it's free for you. You just need to sign up for it. First 30 days, cancel any time, is in there. So I think you've let people know that, Nigel.
Yes, there was a couple of people that were putting the kiddies to bed, which is fine. So if they just get themselves onto this the Equa Hub, they can just watch the recording at their leisure, which is fab. So yeah, all good. And all the other questions, I believe, been busy. Fingers are hurting a bit, but they've all been answered.
Brilliant. And with commercial conversions, it's operating at the strategy that's right for you. We've shown you some very large deals. We've also shown you some deals which might cost you a few £100,000 to acquire small commercial units. We're in the Southeast. Don't be scared of the numbers. This strategy can work anywhere in the country. It could be a simple shop with uppers, and you convert the upper storeroom into just one apartment. Think how meaningful that would be, and the wheels of compounding start. So this works at any level, but you've got to take action. And we hope that we've given you some significant inspiration here. We're showing you the gateway to learn more, understand, and become a specialist in this area, to really take advantage of what we believe 2023 holds, and beyond, some glittering opportunities to add value, create shared value, create impact, and create additional wealth for you and your family. So, Nigel, thank you for answering those questions there in the Q&A. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you, for those who part of Equa Hub, we'll see you on Friday, pretty much straight away, day after next, where we'll be talking about part 3 of the SaaS Masterclass. If you've got any questions, dive onto the Equa Academy website, book a call with me, or use that QR code. And we're looking forward to engaging you and sharing with you some of the amazing benefits that can be achieved by doing commercial conversions right. And that's what it's all about, Nigel, isn't it?
Certainly is. It certainly is. I've just, there we go. We just got one quick question. And it was just a question around the first step to raise private capital. And to that question, I would probably refer to the Promise model, Mark. And if you get yourself signed up to the Equa Hub, it's free. So get yourself in there, and just watch the Promise model. That will give you the whole start to finish process of making yourself investable and raising that private capital. So hopefully that answers the question.
Brilliant. Good. Well, have an absolutely wonderful rest of the evening. Great week. And in the month ahead, we've got so much content for you to access. And you're also going to be seeing us live on the SaaS Pension Masterclass. And of course, joining us in that first month on the monthly focus group session as well. So chance to ask even more questions. So for those that are joining, a very warm welcome to our community. Have a great evening. And on behalf of Nigel and I, thank you so much for sharing an hour of your time of an evening. And we hope we've inspired you to take action. Take care, everyone.